everyone. Welcome to Talking is a Free Action. This is our weekly, sort of weekly, sometimes weekly, other people interlope at points, but usually weekly show where we borrow people from the material plane and put them through our little trials and tribulations. And I am the Illusionist, as you should know by now. I represent the Question Masters. We're always on the hunt for that most delicious of all things, knowledge. And we're after it particularly from this week, one Professor Jaxis. Say hello to the crowds, Professor Jaxis.
Hello.
Marvellous. I love an enthusiastic participant. So, we've borrowed Professor Jaxis from the material plane. We also believe that he might be connected to a higher being from the Real World plane called Mike. So, hopefully we're going to ask Professor Jaxis some questions. We're going to put him through some tests and trials, and then also maybe we'll try and get some information and knowledge out of him as well about this Mike creature. And before we begin, as ever, we have to give thanks to our wondrous sponsors and supporters. Please give a warm welcome to Phoenix Dice, our sponsor, and our supporters Eldwood Academy and Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. And of course, the most precious of supporters, our D20 Club. Professor Jaxis, are you able with your hands to create a shape known as a heart? Not an anatomical heart, a symbolic heart shape. There you go. Please extend that out to the D20 Club. Thank you. Thank you. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. Now, for those of you who can't join us here in my Temple of Truth live, you can always listen on your favourite podcasting app by searching for Roll Together RPG. And also, if you wanted to find us in the planes of social media, you can also look across various different ones, no matter what they're called these days. Look for Roll Together RPG, and if we're there, you'll find us. Now, Professor Jaxis, I have summoned you to this, the Temple of Truth here. Over the next 55 minutes or so, you shall traverse the temple, and behind each door is a challenge to overcome. Does that sound straightforward enough? Do you understand that?
Yes, I mean, I hope they're not physical.
Some of them are. Would that be a problem?
Well, we'll see if my back can do it.
Okay,
It'll be fine.
Well, I'll give you this little way out. If at any point you decide that a challenge is too difficult for your puny mortal self, then you can always invoke the rule of talking is a free action. It's the name of the show, if you hadn't noticed. And if you call that out, I will whisk you away, and maybe I shall have a chance to talk to this Mike character, and we'll ask some questions instead. How does that sound?
Perfect. Does it count if I'm scared as well?
Well, I do enjoy it when people are scared. So if you are scared, maybe just sit in that emotion for a little while. I'm intrigued to see how you react first. If it becomes too much of a bore, then yes, of course, we can whip you out of there, I'm sure.
I've been called that before.
Scared? Or pathetic? What did I say?
Bore.
A bore. Oh, right. I can tell this is going to be a thrilling ride for everyone involved, isn't it? I should tell you that at the end of the 55 minutes, I suppose, if you do start to get too scared, this will only last for that 55 minutes, and at the end I'll deposit you exactly where I have taken you from, and you'll barely remember a thing. Where did I drag you from, by the way?
Well, an unfortunate situation. See, it started when I was at the college, you see, and we started the college, and I was doing my research, and then I met some characters, and you see, I'm a professor of the Feywild, and everything that's involved. He will waffle.
Yeah. Do you want to get to the interesting bit, my dear?
So yes, It started off with a dream, but it didn't seem like a dream at the start. So we went into the Feywild, or it turned out the Fey Dark. Now the Fey Dark is very, very interesting.
Okay, so but you look different now to how you did not too long ago, right? You've been through something rather serious. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's a bit uncouth, but I lost my temper, and I
Tell
did
me
something
more
wrong.
about that.
Rather uncharacter-like of myself.
Mm.
I broke something, and I do hope that the harpers don't come after me for vandalism. But I broke my staff and used that energy, and it transported me. I have this incredibly long blonde summer-like hair, and I seem to have changed.
Was that it? You broke a staff and your hair grew?
Yeah, and I lost my temper.
Right. Okay. Well, that sounds most thrilling for you. I must check my devices. I do. It's usually when someone like yourself undergoes something particularly monumental for them that tends to flare up on our readings, and it feels like that tends to be the best moment for us to borrow people to feed off that energy, because they're most willing to part with knowledge then. But that does sound like a rather... Are you sure nothing else happened?
Yeah, I mean...
What was the release of energy? What were you doing?
I was attempting to save someone from a deity-like hold.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That sounds fascinating. Tell me more about that.
To be fair, if you didn't rush me, I would have told you the story from the very start.
I mean, maybe just the crib notes version.
Oh, I've been told I'm not very good at that either.
Okay, I tell you what, let's go through some rooms first, and then maybe we'll eke out a little bit more about how you feel about this occasion as we go. Is there anything you want to say to the crowds before we begin? Short?
Did you know about that? The Feywild? No, I think I'll just...
No, before you is a silver door. And she will turn, and you'll see forming before you a large ziggurat-shaped temple with this silver door, inscribed with words that you cannot fathom, even with your learning. How many languages does Professor Jaxis speak?
A fair few, but they're all Sylvan, Druidic. They're all very much so in the realm of a Feywild / Elven study. Nothing really of anything else.
As you sort of look at the text on it, it does kind of shift, and it's quite hard to sort of even pin down individual letters. But anything that you sort of you get the feeling that it definitely is writing, but you can't sort of pass, it's not familiar to you. There's nothing familiar to any of the languages you know, but there is a silver door, there is a large handle on it, and as you walk up, would Professor Jaxis just walk up, investigate? What would he do?
Tentatively, yes, but he would.
And just as he reaches for the door handle, the illusionist will pop up just behind him and whisper in his ear, look in your pocket, Professor Jaxis.
Yeah.
You should find in there some polyhedrons with numbers on them, known as, you may be familiar with a D100?
Oh.
Do you have one of those in your pocket or about your person?
It seems there seems to be one, yes.
Yes? Do you want to take it out?
Okay, take it out.
Yes. What does it look like? What does Professor Jax's D100 look like?
It's like half and half. It's like winter autumn colours on one side, and then sort of slit in half. The colour changes to summer and spring light colours.
Really nice. Would you care to throw them for me? Cast them in front of you and tell me what happens.
Just anywhere, or would you like a specific space to throw it on? Do you wish
throw
to
them in front of you.
throw it a certain way, or?
Have you rolled dice before?
I don't gamble. I've got an addictive personality.
Oh, do you? That's interesting. And she'll make a little note in her notebook. Just throw them on the floor, dear.
He'll throw them. Ooh, a 98.
A 98? Goodness, so high. Well, you must be very lucky indeed. Please, proceed. Turn the door handle and walk inside.
Is the door heavy?
Relatively so. Like, it does require a little bit of a hoof to get it going, but it will.
He struggles like a disturbing amount to open a door.
It will eventually slide open. Like the illusionist will be stood there with a notebook, like. But he'll keep going. He won't give up at this first hurdle.
Yes, he will keep pushing through the door. We can manage that much. We'll see.
Does he have dark vision?
He does.
You do have dark vision. Okay, great. So you'll walk into a room that is dark, but with the dark vision, you can make out. It feels like a very plain-looking, empty room. You can it feels like long, just like a long cuboid room, quite nondescript. Stone floor, stone walls. You can see ahead of you there is another silver door. But as you close the main door behind you, it suddenly switches. In an instant, the door closes and the room is suddenly incredibly bright, filled with furniture, and everything is on fire. Just in a room full of fire and things burning. What do you do?
Let's have a look at my spells. What would he do in a panic? Oh, I forgot. I have the most useless spell list. In a panic, just gonna cast Thunder Wave and try and get the flames as far away from him as possible.
Amazing.
I think that's literally the only thing. I could. We'll see how that goes first.
Cool. So how does he cast this? Is it just a panicked, or is there a process?
Usually there is, but I guess at this point it's very much because he doesn't cast like a druid should. He casts almost like a wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And he panics. What's that one? What's this one? Wind, and then casts the wrong spell.
Nice. So a great boom cracks out from your fingertips, and it does cause a ripple, right? The thunderwave pushes people back. So I think you do get almost like a sonic boom, creating this this wind ahead of you, and the fire parts. So you've created a clear path, but how quickly do you think he would react to run down that path? Or do you think he'd be like, oh, I've done it?
We can pair him off with a perception check, maybe, to see how quick he reacts. Or
I think this is a split-second thing.
Okay, he'll just scream and bolt.
Okay, great. Could you please make me a dexterity saving throw?
That is an 8.
Oh no.
He's not great at anything that involves movement.
So he starts you start running and dashing towards the door, and you can feel the flames immediately kind of licking behind you as soon as the pressure wave from the thunderbolt has cleared them. They start to close up again. So you start running, and I think there's a table in the middle of the room that you'd have to go around, but you, in the panic, you kind of just run straight into it and clamber on top of it. And now you're halfway there. You're in the middle of the room, but the fire is raging around you as well. And you start to hear beams above you, wooden beams crack and creak. And suddenly the room, it almost feels like the ceiling is lower already.
I'm just picturing the illusionist like stood outside the door, and you can just hear the muffled screams, like unnecessary amounts.
Doing well then, good.
He's going to sort of like look around, and then he sort of closes his eyes, and then he casts absorb elements.
Nice.
And then he is going to just try and bolt through it.
Mm-hmm. Remind me how
it's
absorb
only
elements
resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So if I take fire damage as a reaction, technically I can use it to become resistant to that damage.
Nice. So again, is he just like panicking and running to the door rather than... Okay, cool. But this time, I think it's... As you run, the flames burn and swirl around you and lick at your body. And he's pretty darn clever, right, Professor Jaxis?
Yes. Relative.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's test this. Make me a perception check.
Ooh. Pure. 25.
Great. As soon as you step in, like, you've got this layer of resistance, I think it gives you a little bit of confidence to, even though you're running in a panic, it gives you that confidence to just walk through the fire. And as soon as you step into the fire, you realize actually it's not hot.
Just picture it back at the door, just the screaming suddenly stops, and then oh, that's clever.
It doesn't seem to be affecting your body in any way. Almost like with a 25, it's an illusion.
Oh, it's illusion. And he begins to weave this circular pattern, and it goes from like really, really structured magic, and then you see vines and leaves begin to sort of like whirl in it, and then he just releases like this blast of dispel magic. I guess you'll probably want to see if you can figure out the source first, because that's kind of how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Can he see like where this probably was sourced on, or is it just the room itself, actually?
I mean, Arcana check.
Okay. 16.
16. I mean, as you look around, it feels like it's not coming from a particular source. It's not like there's a stone that's projecting like a hologram of fire around you. It does feel like it's inherent to the room itself, but this is not a magic that you are familiar with at all.
Okay, I ain't gonna screw with that. I'm just gonna be like, well, take the blessings you get, and walk straight to the door.
The illusionist will greet you at the door saying, so there is some bravery there after all.
Yeah, when you figure out it's not real, of course.
And I wonder how that could be applied to everything else you're scared of. What is reality, really?
Where I would die.
Would you, though? How'd you know?
Well, in the logic of study, if you have an unknown, there is not usually it's not usually a smart idea to inference what you don't know. And if, the general fact of if you see someone die in front of you and they don't get back up, well, that's pretty...
You're thinking in very mortal ways, though, now. Like, Nobody's dying, really. If that person doesn't get up, it doesn't mean, oh, you're overthinking things again. Roll that dice again.
Mm. Good job. 54.
A 54. Great. So she'll sort of roll her eyes, encourage you to roll the dice. It's almost like they don't roll on the floor as you throw them. It's like an invisible table, and they sort of land, and there's like a little slight ripple underneath where they land, and you get the glowing 54 appear. And it's like the door shimmers slightly as if something behind it has shifted. Would you go through the door?
You'll struggle to open that door.
I was going to say, do you want me to grease all of the doors going forwards?
I mean, if you could just open them for me, that'd be delightful.
Oh, no, I don't. This is my temple. I don't do that.
Oh, well, you know.
Oh, I suppose I could... Kobolds! Kobolds! Where are they when you need... Kobolds! And a couple of little kobolds will... Yes, the door, please. Yes. And they'll and push it open for you.
Oh, thank you very much. You know, delightful.
You're welcome. This one has a top hat, apparently.
I immediately pictured that one as Tom for some reason. If Tom was a kobold, he would wear a top hat.
He would have some kind of paraphernalia, obviously. Of course he would. Great. So you enter. There's a plush theatre space ahead of you. Has Professor Jaxis been to the theatre before?
Oh, he delights in the theatre.
Great.
Everything about it, yes.
Fabulous. In Professor Jaxis, was he originally based down in Smelteran?
Wherever the guild that Winnow and
Smelteran.
your character were from, yes.
Sarah, not to be confused with Sarah.
Yes.
That did entertain me when I watched it. Yeah, great. So, and has he travelled around a lot?
Absolutely not.
No, okay.
He's never actually been on an adventure.
Oh my goodness. Maybe that's why he's been grabbed now.
Yeah.
This is your defining move. Okay, so you enter a plush theatre space. There are some elements of it that are unusual, like maybe the drapes are different to what you expect. They're a different colour, like a plush green instead of a plush red, or the seats are a slightly unusual shape. There is a crowd in the audience of beings that some you recognize, like elves, dwarves, giants, some that you have no idea what species this creature is, but they're all sitting there looking expectantly. As you're walking, the entrance that you've arrived in is like the back of the auditorium. So there's a long there's the corridor in the front of you, and then there's the stage straight ahead, the aisle. Words. There's the aisle in front of you that ready to walk down, and a stage ahead. Actually, there's a lot of creatures here as well. As you get closer and closer to the stage, that get a little bit more fey as well. But I don't think Professor Jaxis has never actually been to the Feywild.
Well, technically now in a dream.
In a dream. Well, it'll continue to be in weird sort of mind visiting, but not actually visiting. I think these look like portrayals of Feywild creatures as one would have expected from a storybook. So not the real sort of way that fairies or jackalopes or gnomes or any of the Feywild creatures look. These are like, how Professor Jaxis would expect them to look in that fantasy. And on the stage is a large throne two large thrones, one distinctly bigger than the other, with a bear sat in the largest, with a crown on his head. And next to the bear in the throne, on the smaller throne, there is an otter with a stone tablet in its paws. And next to the other side of the bear, there is a plinth with a golden cast of the bear's head. And he's sort of got his hand on the on his paw on the top of the head. The otter says, "Right, yes, well, this week we have asked Professor Jaxis to bring the best gift for the Winter King. And he wishes, for one, that is, I'll roll the dice because we've got a bunch of different ones. He's asked for the sneakiest gift." And the bear turns to you, and as you've been looking, it's almost like you didn't walk down the aisle, but you're now in the chair opposite them, on stage, and suddenly all of the audience is looking right at you. So the bear turns and looks directly at you. "All right then, what sneaky gift have you brought me?"
Sneaky gift. President Jaxis gives off like a little squeak, a nervous squeak. Sneakiest gift. Or sleekest.
Sneaky. Sneakiest gift. This doesn't necessarily have to be something in your actual character inventory, but I think the way this is going to work is you can manifest it. Whatever you think Professor Jaxis would have prepared for this moment had he been summoned to Feywild's Taskmaster, then it suddenly is there, ready for you to provide.
Sneakiest. So when I was reading about Fey stories and fairy tales, there was probably the most sneaky character I've ever read about. It was this really interesting fable, and it involved bears. It also involved porridge, and this character would go into the bear's house and eat the porridge, and they were a little bit selfish, and they got a little bit sulky about sometimes they were more salty, and sometimes they were more sweet, not too sweet.
The bear raises an eyebrow at your suggestion that the bears would complain.
Oh, well, fair enough. So what I would give you is the person that was sneaking around your people, and I will attempt to produce the thieving girl from the fairy tale in that same style as the Faerun creatures.
Incredible. So as you sort of turn around, it's like there's a magic pocket behind you, and you pull out, and your hand feels the scruff of a collar and curly hair surrounding that scruff. So if you were to pull, would you pull?
Yeah.
As you pull your hand out, suddenly there is probably about a 12-year-old girl with the bounciest golden ringlets tied up in two like big bunches with like gingham bows, and she's got like a blue gingham dress on with a big Peter Pan collar, big puffy sleeves, and a little court shoes, like the quintessential Goldilocks sort of.
Let me
like a
present
doll
to you Goldilocks.
And she comes out screaming like, "Ah! Where am I? What is this? What have you done?" And
Professor
the bear
screams back.
the bear is about to say, "I do like revenge," and then watches you screaming, and the bear and the otter just kind of look at each other.
Sorry, I was just startled. It was my gift, and my gift startled me. What can I say?
I'm gonna roll the thing. Okay, okay. So, you scream back and he's like, oh, no, sorry, I was startled. She looks back at you and sort of says, what am I here to do?
Be sneaky.
Oh, I can do that. She disappears.
Case in point.
But where's my gift, though?
It's somewhere in here. It's just very sneaky. And he's desperately looking around and goes, "Oh, I see what's happening. I messed up. Illusionist, talking is a free action."
Yeah, the theatre. It's like the curtains close.
Yes.
on the theatre. You hear the audience were like, oh, ready to see if the Winter King was going to tear you apart. And as the curtains fall, you just hear a oh from the audience. Well, hello, Mike. How's it going? How's life?
It's good. It's good. It's great fun playing an absolute. Yes.
You could have chosen your words carefully, and you chose to not choose any words at all there. But have you been enjoying a scaling effect?
Very much so. It's been really good fun. Playing something that's not useless, because that becomes frustrating, but playing a character that's relatively difficult to talk to, but really in theme about sort of what we're trying to do, has been really good fun. And I'm a sucker for something that's a bit there's lots of like you're in and out of like, oh, we're going this direction, and then Ali just like pulls the rug from underneath you and sort of pushes you in a different direction. It's just so good fun as a player and a role player, just to be like having to keep on your feet and really pay attention.
He's really good at that.
Sort of going on. It's really good fun.
Nice. And I something that I love that you've been doing with Professor Jaxis is like the theming of all your spells. I love the description of Pass Without a Trace, where you're like casting moss on everything. Like, this is a guy who sort of is so connected to the Feywild and that sort of magic, but just has no idea.
Absolutely. But yeah, the logic has to be somewhere for him to have learnt the spells. But trying to explore how a druid learns spells like a wizard has been like quite fun to sort of logic that out a little bit, because it has to work somehow in my head, but it's sort of how would this character sort of like figure it out without the guidance.
Did that go into, because you said before, you made a joke about like, oh, all my spells are useless. Is that because you've gone through and chosen spells that you think logically he would have? Yeah,
as someone who doesn't adventure, who's someone canonically is a coward, you know, what spells would someone who doesn't go out would probably have stuff that's more convenient for his life than as a professor. And there isn't a huge amount of like identifiers or, you know, quality of life spells, but a lot of this stuff can be kind of like cleverly worded or sort of changed in a certain way to make them seem more like as close to a learned person than would be someone who's out in nature and is in touch with nature, which has been really good fun. But it has also meant that I'm quite limited.
Well, actually, I to my shame, I have been watching, I promise. I've not clocked what level you all are.
That's a good question. We start off at level 7.
Right.
And then when we wake up, we are level 8.
Nice.
Which was...
So what do you, obviously Pass Without a Trace, what spells did you land on then?
It's more all either sorts of support stuff, so lots of Cure Wounds, Charm Person, Fog Cloud for the quick escape, What else have we got in here? Healing spirit, lesser restoration, locate animals or plants, which is a slightly rare. Oh no, that's from my staff anyway. Wall and ceiling climb, yeah. Dispel magic, sort of stuff that could be helpful, sort of in day-to-day life, but also it kind of just fits with a lot of his personality.
Yeah. I love the idea that casting fog cloud is an essential day-to-day spell.
Yes.
Just gonna,
Well, he gets
way.
socially nervous incredibly quickly. If someone asks him a question he doesn't entirely feel comfortable with answering, it's just poof, clouds disappeared. Where did Jaxis go? I don't know.
It's very misty in here all of a sudden. Jaxis! Great. Well, the actual question that I rolled off my the official list of questions was, how much do you like to bring real-world experiences into your games? And I guess this would work from a player perspective or a DM perspective.
Player is usually what fever dream I've had the day before. I've been a much more conservative in the characters. I've played more characters I've been sort of thinking about for a long time that I've wanted to play, usually sort of with you guys. Any of my players or DMs at home will be like, some of the characters my players are just but Jaxis was more of like it was the concept I thought was really funny. It was a druid that's never been in nature, and it just literally was that. So I don't know if that came from anywhere. It's just more like when I'm bumbling about, not focusing on entirely what I'm doing, and I'm usually thinking about something else. Sometimes they just come. It's like a spore. I've had a spore druid who gets high off his own spells. just like really silly things like that. And that's what Jaxis was, but I kind of fell in love with the idea and just having this bumbling coward, essentially. I keep on wanting to play non-heroic characters who are kind, but they're just not fighters. They're just not they'll try their best, but every ounce of their body just wants to not be in this situation at all. And that's been really quite fun to play with, and slowly start seeding in this realization that Jax is realizing I need to start doing stuff. As a DM, it can be a little awkward because there's certain things in real life you just don't want to touch on when you're playing a fantasy game with your friends, because half the point a lot of the time is you don't want to think about the real world, so you go and play a fantasy game. But I'm a big believer in there's no such thing as an original idea. So I read books, I watch films, and I see all these things, and you do just naturally take little touches of that actual real world experience. Maybe not, but like.
Something you mentioned though about particularly the characters you play, like Professor Jaxis, though, because you think about the classic D&D characters, sort of the whole point of playing games like this often is kind of wish fulfillment and, like you say, escapism. But I think even in that, playing that type of character where you're not a natural hero, I think that's still wish fulfillment from the perspective we've been through. It's waning now, but we've been through the period of entertainment where it's superheroes everywhere, like superheroes and Jedi and special people having special abilities, saving the day and being big goddamn heroes. But I think we've moved into a more cynical place now where people are like, okay, well that's really nice for them, but it's no longer inspiring or like patriotic, like the way in the 50s like superheroes were like, I am Mr. Patriotism and I'm gonna save the day, and everyone's like, oh boy, wish I could be like you're so great. Whereas now we're like, okay, well that's not realistic, because your average person on the street doesn't have the ability to make big grand change. But
it's the same. It's gone from, like you say, it's not wishing to be something. People seem to be much more likely to look at something they can relate to.
Exactly. So playing a character that has the abilities, but doesn't have the sort of the confidence or presence, and playing through a campaign where their arc is that they find that they
Mm.
the hero inside themselves, search for the hero inside yourself. That's sort of a more modern, relatable wish fulfillment anyway, right? It's finding the little things that we can all do.
I'm a terrible sucker for payoff as well. Like, not necessarily torturing a character, but having a character that really, you know, either gets dragged through the mud a bit, you know, they've got dirty secrets that come out to light and you've got to grovel and apologize and prove. And then, you know, on the other end, just being maybe someone that isn't a fighter and you have to learn how to become a fighter. It doesn't necessarily have to be as negative as that, but there can be something really fun about being something that people really don't want to relate to. So you go even further down that spectrum of like, maybe that person has a particularly rancid personality. Maybe they do things that we as people probably go, that's just not cool. You know, you don't need to belittle someone. You don't need to be. And then you do this thing where you have those beautiful moments with characters and they teach you how to not be that. And you get to show this path of someone being better and becoming better. There can be so many different extremes to that. And some extremes are just not worth exploring, but you can really explore some interesting ones from one spectrum to the other, which is really fun to show that payoff and create a character that you're like, yeah, they're really cool now. I really like what they've done. They've really shown this sort of self-improvement and self-awareness of what they were and what they can be now, which can be really fun to explore as a player.
Yeah. I also like as well the running theme of I don't know if there are any druids in the Roll Together canon that are stereotypical. I am from a druid circle and lived in the forest and now have come to civilization. Like most of our druids have something slightly urban about them or different about them. It was quite funny for me playing Baldur's Gate 3, and you go. One of the first things you do is you go to the Druids Enclave.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, this is what traditional fantasy druids
Yeah, this is
like, isn't it? This is like, yeah, they're all very lovely, but it is like, oh, this is baby's first druid. Okay, great. Yeah, it just reminded me of like, that's what they typically are, and then we've gone and done all sorts of weird and wonderful things with them through the people that have played them. So I found that entertaining. All right, let's get you back into the Temple of Truth, I think. So you end up back on stage.
Back and he's like, don't hurt me.
I think as he says that, don't hurt me. The bear and the otter have disappeared, and sat in the throne instead is the illusionist with a notebook. She's wearing the bear's crown just for the moment. It just feels nice to wear a crown sometimes, you know. And the Goldilocks figure that you produced is sat in the smaller throne, and she mocks you as well. She copies the don't hurt me right back at you.
That was really clever. You got it nearly bang on. You just needed to, you know, get the whimpering down a bit more.
She's going to practice whimpering. She does an average job.
You can work on it.
The illusionist will take your reaction and look down at the Goldilocks. Go on then. Work on it. Get better for next time. And the Goldilocks will go, okay, and run and disappear.
See, I didn't think that wasn't a terrible idea. It nearly worked.
Yes, it nearly. I mean, you could have tried finding her.
Oh.
But no worries. We've got that knowledge, so that's all fine. Would you like to continue? She'll pull. A cord has just sort of appeared from the ceiling that she just pulls, and the back cloth departs, revealing another silver door.
I'd love a cup of tea before we go on to the next one, but...
Oh, aren't you demanding? I suppose we could...
Licorice, if you got it.
Licorice.
Yeah.
Interesting. I
And
think that's the
fennel.
first...
There's a really good... Oh, licorice and fennel tea. Oh.
Anything else, Your Highness?
No sugar, please.
She'll sort of look sideways at some kobolds, which will be like... Would you sit in... Like, she will continue taking notes in silence. The audience have gone, by the way. The auditorium is entirely empty, so it is silent. Unless Professor Jaxis would talk.
You know that really irritating thing that people do when they want your attention, but they won't actually speak, and they just and he'll just do that.
How long for?
A disturbing amount of commitment to not being the first to say something.
Roll me a d10.
How many hours? 8.
8 minutes pass. The illusionist refuses to take the bait. Just flat out refuses. So it's 8 minutes before the kobolds bring this tea for you. Would he keep making the noise, or would he eventually give up?
He's quite scared of her, so he'll probably back off after a while and just sort of sit there, and it'll change to like the tapping of he's like tapping his foot on the floor, and then he'll shift a lot, and just solid, just irritating, unnecessary noises.
Yeah. The kobolds will eventually and bring the tea, and it is exactly as you would want it to be, like the perfect drinking temperature right now. No sugar, the best licorice smell and taste overwhelms you as you're handed it.
Oh, this is fantastic. I have to say, it's not as sweet as the one Winnow made me not that long ago. But
you requested no sugar.
Yeah, well, I don't usually have sugar. I didn't have sugar last time, but it was just an interesting...
Is that a problem? Do you want sugar?
No, gosh, no. You should never ruin... you and in your masterful ways must know you don't ruin tea with sugar.
Depends on the person, I find.
Yes, well, I'm sweet enough, as they say.
Was there something you wanted before? You seemed very keen on getting my attention. I was sort of seeing how long it would take you to just come out with it, but you didn't.
Well, as soon as you ask, I was trying to figure out whether it was rude to ask what you are.
I'm a question master.
Yeah, no, I understood that bit, but there's a relative fascination on your your power and your being and your other things.
Well, what would you like to know?
Are you a deity? Are you a demon or devil? One cannot judge. But I was just trying to make sense of this place.
So these are interesting definitions. Deities, demons, and devils are all defined by the people that worship or fear them, are they not?
I do know that's certainly correct, yes.
So to some, I would be, as you say, a deity. And to others, perhaps they would see me more as a demon or devil. I would reject the mundanity of that definition, but I would understand if people saw me that way.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that's all. I need you to go, and I finished my tea. Look.
What do you see me as?
One reflects on that question as it's could feel like a trap, It feels like, I could say one thing and that would offend you, and another that would maybe, satisfy. But I feel like encompassing you into a description or define you in a certain way wouldn't entirely be in my best interest.
And here I was thinking you were foolish. I'm not entirely convinced otherwise, but there is some wisdom there, I suppose. Roll me a perception check.
Yeah. 16.
16. You don't notice it at the time, but I think eventually you'll finish your tea. The cord that she pulled to open the door will just sort of magically stay where she pulled it to, and she won't keep her hand on it. So the door is there, and eventually the kobolds will sort of go, oh, and start pulling at the door. As you're about to pass her and leave, you just get the slight sense of, maybe she was quite invested in my answer. She seemed quite keen to have made a good impression. But you just get that sensation too late to have acted upon it. It was just like in that moment as you're leaving, you're like, oh. Please roll me another D100.
Oh, an 88.
88. Rolling high, rolling high. Okay. So, the door opens and some sand tumbles out. Just a little bit. It's not like a wall. It's just there was sand piled up, and it just tumbles out as the door is opened, and you step out. It's a beautiful moonlit, starry night out in the desert. You sort of feel it's weirdly. You might expect it to be freezing cold out in the desert at night, but it feels oddly temperate, like it's not too hot, not too cold. It feels just cozy, almost a little bit like a romantic, idealized version of a desert at night. Would Professor Jaxis sort of pause or say anything or do anything in this moment, or would you just kind of forge on?
No, you'll begin to sort of plod and wonder and look. A blanket and a glass of wine would go quite nicely paired off in this place.
The door will close behind you, leaving just desert. There is no indication that there was ever a door there. And as you say, a picnic blanket and a glass of wine would go quite nicely here, as you turn around, there is a giant Leonin statue with a picnic blanket and a giant, like the picnic blanket is the size of like a small garden size picnic blanket. It would cover that area. Let's say half a tennis court, because that's a bit more of a specific size. And is holding a glass of wine in its paw that is like the size of a small barrel. And there is a U-sized glass of wine on the picnic blanket as well. This Leonin statue looks like it's made out of sandstone, but it's still it's moving as if it was a real person. But it's like in Aladdin, the sand tiger entrance to the cave, and he says, "Well, that can be arranged."
Is this thing terrifying, or am I pleasantly?
You tell me.
I think I'm going to go with it for now. How incredibly kind. And he looks nervous, but he's kind of just going with it. He'll take the a glass of wine and go to cheers it.
This glass of wine that's like nearly as big as you kind of comes down, and just the gentlest, the most controlled, just like tiniest ding.
And he'll sit down and he'll not put his back to it, but he'll sort of sit side on, so it's almost like he sat with the Leonin looking out onto the desert and like the stars and stuff. Zin's not like directly staring at him or putting his back, just sort of sitting with, joining.
Yeah, lovely. I think based on the previous rooms, you would expect there to be somewhere a silver door to be the way out, but you can't see it at all anywhere. Would that be the first line of inquiry, or would you just be enjoying the moment and chatting to the Leonian statue?
He'd be enjoying the moment, but he would be like, so if there's no door for me to struggle to open, I'm going to assume that, the exit has something to do with yourself.
A very wise and astute person you are. And as he smiles, one of his teeth glints silver.
Oh.
I have a little puzzle for you. Would you care to hear it?
Absolutely.
Are you one for puzzles?
I do the Sudoku in the paper in the morning. That's probably about as far as I go.
Do you ever do your puzzles on a moonlit night, on a picnic blanket, with excellent fine company?
No, I've never done this before. I've never been to the desert before. I should, though. I could holiday here. It's rather delightful. The temperature, everything. It's very pretty. And, they always say that sand goes, into nether places, the Faerun, as they say. But I'm feeling very comfortable and not intruded on at all. I
wouldn't know about that. I am made of sand, so by definition, sand goes into all of my places.
Well, yeah. Yes. Well, I hope it's not uncomfortable for you.
Is your skin and flesh uncomfortable for you?
No, fair point. Very astute, yes.
That wasn't my question, though. My riddle.
Okay.
This slightly flirty, weirdly, it's like this giant Leon's just like, hello. Says, well, very well then. Tell me, what is always old, sometimes new, never sad, sometimes blue, never empty, but sometimes full, never pushes, but always pulls? And again, that giant grin with a flash.
I feel like, I don't know if I've met this character before. I can't remember. For everybody at home, Mike doesn't process riddles very well.
That's okay. You can make me well, being a druid, you can either make me an intelligence check, like maybe a history check to see if Professor Jaxis has heard this riddle before, or some kind of wisdom check, I think, to figure it out.
Go history? Well, that's a dirty 20.
Nice.
Which could help.
Nice. I think there's something about the setting as well. The main feature in this desert, apart from the Leonin, is just how beautiful the night sky is, including, and it seems slightly larger than you would have ever seen it before, this beautiful full moon in the sky. And something about that makes you go, oh.
Oh, the moon. The stars. Very clever.
You've not actually told me the answer.
The moon?
As you say that, the Leonin sort of leans towards you, and sort of looms, as if it looks like he's about to sort of jump on you, and then the jaw opens wider and wider and wider, like the Cave of Wonders, and as the sands swirl, you would expect to see a silver door. But actually what you see in front of you is a silver portal instead. And the Illusionist pops up next to you. Oh yes, very clever, well done. You figured it out. Unfortunately, that's it. That's the end. You seem to be enjoying yourself there, though.
Yes, I could have stayed there for quite a while.
And here you were thinking you would have been scared or cowardly.
Oh, I was scared. But yes, but
Made it through, though, didn't you?
yes, yeah.
How do you feel?
I feel like this whole summer change is doing something to my brain, and I don't like it, but we'll see. You say I'm going to forget all of this?
Yes, it's a bit of a shame, really. So any character growth that happened in the last hour doesn't apply.
Oh. Well. Yes. I guess I could.
I tell you what. I'll leave you with just a little... Next time you look at the moon, you'll just get a little happy feeling. How does that sound?
I'll take it.
Very good. Don't go kidnapping any blonde, curly-haired girls, though.
No, that's not generally my style.
That's my job.
Oh, okay. Yes, fair enough.
And she'll start to push you towards the portal, and then suddenly stop and turn to the cameras and say, well, thank you, everyone, for joining us for Talking is a Free Action. You'll find us here every Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. BST. I believe we're still in BST, not that pesky GMT yet. Mondays and Tuesdays, 6 till 9 p.m., we stream our D&D documentaries, where you can follow the adventures of Professor Jaxis here, and so on Mondays we're still looking at Scaling Effect. I believe we're going into the finale next week, are we not? Professor Jaxis, how are you feeling about that?
Absolutely. Hopefully I don't die.
Good. We look forward to seeing if you do. And on Tuesdays, you can keep up with, you can refresh yourself with one of our classics from the archives, Gloom Falls on Baldur's Gate. It's an excellent show. You should watch that as well. One of the streams on twitch.tv/RollTogetherRPG, and the videos are available immediately after the stream to catch up, or you can find it all on YouTube or podcasts. Just look for us. Roll Together RPG. You shall find us. Once again, thank you to our D20 club. Please produce the symbol. Thank you. It's very important. They get cross now if we don't. You know, I don't want to invoke... I am very powerful. I don't want to invoke the wrath of the D20 club. They are the most powerful people. You can also be as powerful as they are by supporting us with one of your local currencies per month. Just search on Patreon for Roll Together RPG. Thank you also to the rest of our sponsors and supporters. Now, Professor Jaxis, you may now enter the final portal. As you go, please remember the ancient Question Master proverb: always stay classy at the table.